right, good morning, everyone. It is noon. We're going to give it just another second. Folks are getting in the room and getting connected to the audio. So we'll give it just a second and we'll get started momentarily. Thank you all for being here. Good morning. All right, we're waiting to get started for just a moment so that everyone can get connected to their audio. So I invite you to settle in for just a minute while folks get in the room.
Hey, Carrie, we're having a little bit of trouble getting everyone in the waiting room. Can you send the registration to Carrie or to Seth and Michelle, please? If that's possible.
It will take a minute to get access to that list and get it resent, but they should have gotten an email with it this morning.
And that was from you, yeah, right?
From Zoom. Their registration confirmation should have gone out this morning. So it will take just a minute. And Craig, I see your question in the chat, and the agenda was sent out this morning. Those go out the morning of our meeting. So you should have seen it there, and I'll post it in the chat as we get started. And then materials being shared with participants. These meetings are recorded and sent or posted on the KDAD's website after they happen. And those are available. Our November meeting is already posted, and the meeting for this week should be available later. So yes, all materials. Meeting, I realized you asked for meeting materials. I misread, I'm sorry. There aren't, the only materials we have are that agenda, and that is was sent out this morning. I'll put in chat. Sorry for misreading that. It still very much feels like Monday. All right. Give us just a moment. We're having a little bit of technical difficulties. I need to troubleshoot really quickly. So thank you for your patience. We do appreciate that. All right, let's go ahead and get started this morning. And they got the Zoom call invite, but not an agenda. Okay, those go out, the agenda and meeting reminders go out to the KDAD's listserv. So if I would double check that you're registered and signed up for the KDAD's listserv to get those emails. And that can be done on the KDAD's website. Unfortunately, I don't have that link, but hopefully we can track it down during the course of today and get it for you. I am going to go ahead and get us started, and with our content today so that we can make sure we have time for everything we need to get to. Thank you for your patience, everyone. We want to be mindful of your time and get started as quickly as we can, barring technical difficulties. As I said earlier, these meetings are recorded and posted to the KDAD's website. The November meeting is already posted, and today's recording should be available later this week. Sai is going to put that in that link in the chat for you. And we do have ASL interpretation today that is done by Julie Bennett. If you are in need of interpretation, you can spotlight her. I'm going to spotlight her for just a second so everyone can find her. If you need that interpretation, she will offer it, and you can spotlight her for yourself. So there is Julie if you need to find her. Oh, Maddie, I'm sorry. When I looked before, it was Julie. All right, she renamed herself. And let's see here. So we appreciate you spending a little bit of your time with us today. If we haven't met before, my name is Carrie, and I work with the Community Engagement Institute at Wichita State University. Also on the call with me today are my colleagues, Sai Rogers and Lisa Jones. If you need assistance during our conversation today, please message Sai or Lisa and we will help you, or they will help you out. I am not going to be able to keep up with chat, at least for the first little bit, so please message Sai or Lisa if you need technical support. Our role is to help facilitate these calls, to keep them moving and help with taking notes. And if there's anything we can do to make that easier, please do let us know. Today's call is part of a bi-monthly series hosted by KDAD to share information and updates about HCBS in the state of Kansas. We also do invite you to visit the LTSS Commission webpage to stay up to date on information. A couple of housekeeping items as we get started. First of all, please do not click any external links shared in the chat. WSU or KDAD might share links. We do that regularly. We will alert you and you'll recognize the name that it's coming from. So please do be cautious clicking external links. People sometimes come into these meetings and have bugs that they're trying to share with people. So be cautious of what you click on in the chat. We will have time for you to ask questions about what you hear today. Please keep in mind that to minimize disruption, we are asking you to wait until that specific time, that question time, to ask your questions. If you look in your Zoom controls, though, you should see a Q&A button. And in that Q&A button, you can ask questions and they're housed there until we're ready for them. So that's another option for asking your questions. Today, we're going to hear from several KDAD staff, including about different topics. That includes KDAD staff changes, federal medical assistance percentage or FMAP updates, KDAD's policies and waiver renewal and amendments, and finally updates around the final settings rule. So lots of updates today to hear, and I am going to hand things over to LTSS Commissioner Hayden, who is going to kick us off with our updates momentarily. One moment, I believe we have our Spanish interpreter here, and I need to. I don't see her. All right, I apologize. More technical difficulties. So Michelle, if you want to go ahead and kick us off, and I think it was really helpful last time with having introductions of the state staff. So if you want to introduce your team who's here today, and then KDAD staff, if you want to introduce yourself in the chat so that we can see that and keep track for folks, then please do so. So KDAD staff, if you'll introduce yourselves in the chat, that would be great. And Michelle, please take it away.
Hey, thank you, Carrie. Hi, I'm Michelle Hayden. I'm the LTSS Commissioner for KDADS. I just wanted to welcome you all. I'm so glad everybody is here. I will introduce some of some of the staff. Lee Smith, our HCBS director, couldn't be here today, but she is the director. And then I have Megan Shepard, who is the director for program and policy. I have Mitzi Tyree, who is the director for our FMAP projects. I have Teresa Singh, who is our policy manager. I have Chris Cintron, who is the PD program manager. I have a new staff, Letha Farwell, who is our new IDD program manager. She just started last week. Robin Lohman is the Assistant Director for IDD Services. And I have several others on the line. I'm not going to go through all of them. They're putting their names in the chat. My Assistant Commissioner, he just said he's on the phone now, Seth Kilber. He was having trouble getting in, so he's on the call as well. So what's next on the agenda, Megan? Or Carrie?
If you want to go ahead, Michelle, with your staffing updates for today.
Yeah, it's just that I did talk about that. Letha Farwell just joined us as IDD program manager. We are still looking for an SCD TA program manager right now, so that position is open. But all the other positions are the same as they were when we met back in November.
All right, great. Thank you, Michelle. And Mitzi, I believe we had you next for updates related to FMAP.
Sure. So we are in the process of submitting our quarterly expenditure report to CMS. We are still waiting on some CMS budget and project approval that we submitted in October, and hopefully we will hear something about that with this update that we're submitting by the 17th. We have our Employment First Commission report for 2023 that's went out via email to several individuals. I've included our FMAP website. You can find that Employment First Commission report for 2023 on that website, and it's very different than the reports you've seen over the past 11 years. So I highly encourage everyone to take a look at that. We have the RFP out for the Workforce Development Career Ladder, and we're working on those initiatives as well as the initiatives tied to what type of technology we may be using in the future to keep all these things together and updated and accounted for. We are going to have a public forum at the Topeka Shawnee County Library on February 1st with our contractor public consulting group regarding the conflict of interest around targeted case management. That email should have went out as well. It will be a hybrid informational meeting, and we will host 2 of them. One will be from 12:30 to 2 in person at the library or virtually, and the other will be from 3 to 4:30 in person or virtually. And that's all I have. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mitzi. I appreciate that. All right, Megan, it looks like you were going to visit with us about the policy updates.
Yes, thank you everyone, and thank you for your previous public comments on the we had the PD policy and the BI eligibility policy. We are still working through some of those comments, and they will be posted on our website. I've currently sent a number of 3 policies to the CTGO for review, and after their review, we will be posting those on for public comment. And those policies are the adverse incident reporting policy, the transition policy, and the settings final rule policy. I will update the listserv as soon as those are posted. If you want to be added to our listserv, please email the email kdads@hcbs.ks.gov, and we'll, with your email and your position and what organization you represent, and we'll ensure to get you on the listserv. Yes, that email was just dropped in the chat. So we're in the process of updating our listserv and want to make sure we have as accurate information as possible. So please reach out to us if you are not currently on that listserv. And I do not have anything else for policy updates.
Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Megan. Good updates. And Michelle, it looks like we're going back over to you for waiver renewal and amendment.
Sure. So right now we're in the process of wrapping up our waiver amendments for the Appendix K measures, paid family caregiving and virtual delivery of service, along with a few other changes that we've been working on for some time. We're hoping to get that all wrapped up in the next few weeks and back to KDHE to review for CMS. We're working on that at this point, and hopefully that will be wrapped up in the next few months. The next is we are in the process of renewing the brain injury and the IDD waivers. There will be a public comment period starting in February. So be on the lookout. We will put out on our listserv when we have all the dates nailed down for when we'll be taking public comment in that 30-day period. I know Robin Lohman for the IDD waiver is planning to go out to a number of spots through the state and is scheduling those now. Susan Siegelquist is working on the brain injury waiver public comment period as well. So be looking for those. Those will be important to get your feedback in. So we're looking forward to that. We are working on the community support waiver. We're putting into procurement, getting a vendor to help us write that community support waiver, as well as help us build the provider network that will need to be associated with that. It's a major undertaking, but we're very excited to be moving forward with that, and be sure that for those that are stakeholders for the IDD waiver, you will also be, when our vendor gets on board, you will be receiving information about setting up meetings with them so that they can take your stakeholder feedback for that particular waiver. So there's a lot going on right now as far as waiver amendments and renewals, and starting a brand new waiver. Are there any questions there?
Oh, Michelle, we've asked folks to save to hold questions until the end.
Yes, that's right.
To make sure we can get through all of the updates.
Yep. Thanks.
If you do have questions, though, you can put those in the Q&A box and we'll be able to ask those later on in the meeting. Thank you for that. And I believe now we're going to go to Seth Kilber to update us on final rule. And Seth, you should be able to unmute. I know you're on the phone. It looks like you're already done. You're ahead of me. So please go ahead.
Can you hear me all right?
We can.
Okay, great. Yeah, so settings rule update. The big one here is what Megan has kind of already talked about, is that we finally have some of those policies out for comment. That I believe they'll probably go out for general public comment sometime next week. So please keep an eye out for those. The two settings rule related policies are both kind of the overarching policy for what it looks like when a provider or setting first comes into the system and what the compliance activities that the state engages in with that provider, and then over into the next process of that ongoing monitoring phase, and so it really should outline the process from a very global view, and so we're pretty excited to kind of bring you all into the fold there and hear your comments on that policy. But then also we changed what previously was the institutional transition policy, which encompassed just those transitions out of institutions. We've kind of modified that to be a global transition policy, to encompass both transitions out of institutions, but also transitions and the expectations for anyone who's transitioning out of just a regular HCBS setting, whether that's due to final rule compliance issues or other transition reasons. So we're hoping that kind of captures all of the reasons that somebody might transition from a setting, whether that's institutional or otherwise. Other than that, we are still meeting with CMS regularly related to our corrective action plan on the settings rule. They are, really just focused on how the state will remediate with those 6 settings that were visited back in March of 2023. So we were really trying to ensure that we had all our I's dotted and T's crossed from a policy perspective before we could really get into the nitty-gritty on remediating directly with the providers. But that's essentially our next step right now. And so we'll be eager to hear how to get feedback from CMS on the steps we take to bring those 6 providers into compliance. And then of course we've got just a bunch of other initiatives. Mitzi kind of talked about the FMAP projects that are in process right now, and then the waiver renewal efforts. All of this stuff intersects with the settings rule. So we're really trying to be very careful with how we approach some of these things from a global perspective, and not wanting to plug one hole and spring 3 others with that, because we really are trying to take a global systems view approach with this. I think that's about. Oh no, I've got one more update. We are also looking at putting out for bid kind of a statewide settings rule training program. We're not really sure what that'll look like, but we're hoping to bring on a vendor to really do kind of a statewide training tour to really kind of get into some of the nitty-gritty of what it looks like to actually become compliant in the state of Kansas. So that is all I've got right now for settings rule updates. Great.
Thank you so much, Seth. I appreciate that. And the rest of KDAD staff for your updates. Seth, I went ahead and muted you again. You should be able to unmute as needed. And so we are going to transition into opening up for your questions or comments. You can share your questions out loud if you would like, or you can share them in the chat and we will read them for you. The easiest way for us to do this and not lose your questions is to put them in the QA box. If you see that, where your meeting controls are with mute and video and chat, there should be a Q&A box that helps keep everything in one place for us. If you want to share out loud, please use the raise hand function so that we can see that you want to talk to us and want to join the conversation. In order to use the raise hand function, if you click on the reactions button, again, down there in your toolbar or meeting controls, click reactions, and then towards the bottom, you should see a raise hand button. If you're dialed in by phone, you can use *9 to raise your hand. So you have the same feature, it'll show up the same way, just use *9. And then when we call on you, you'll unmute by using *6. So again, for you, those of you on the phone only, use *9 and then unmute using *6. To make sure we can hear from as many people as possible today, KDADS is only able to respond to questions that are related to the updates that we covered in this meeting. If you have other questions or comments, we encourage you to contact KDADS for assistance, and we will put that contact email in the chat for you. We just can't do that here in our time today. And with that, we are ready for our first question or comment. So please raise your hand and we'll call on you and we'll cover the questions that we've received already. And I'm looking in the Q&A, and the first question in the Q&A is, once the client has met with the case manager to develop a service plan, how long should it take to get the service plan created and provided to the service provider, specifically in assisted living? So I am not sure who is best to answer that, but I think the general gist of that question was, how long should it take to get a service plan created into a provider after they've had their meeting?
So the MCOs have 14 days to get the service plan once they have been assigned the member to get a service plan meeting in place. And they should be after that. I do not know that there are specific guidelines about when the provider has to be starting to provide services, but once someone is on the waiver, they need to be accessing at least one service every 30 days. So they do need to get that service plan out there quickly and get the providers lined up as quickly as possible. There are a number of factors that can come into play when they are developing a service plan. If the chosen provider has the staff available to provide the service, also affects when they're able to get the services started. Does that answer the question?
I believe so. And we can ask somebody to give ask for clarification if you need to. The next question I see is, who will be eligible for the community support waiver?
You know, that's a really good question. The community support waiver really is come about as from the IDD specialized committee for IDD modernization that was held in 2022, 2023. This was designed to look at those folks that are already on the waiting list and to help them get off that waiting list faster. For those that don't want day or residential services, but want some other kind of service. We're looking at an assessment tool for that, because we're going to have a tool to show where we're going to, how we're going to assess people for need. And so we're looking at the MFEI tool or the MEFI as that potential tool, and that will assess those people that are wanting to get on the community support waiver. We also hope to have a mechanism for those that are being served on the comprehensive waiver right now, should they choose to move off that comprehensive waiver, that there will be a way for them to do so and move on to the community support waiver. But getting that tool in place will be critical as far as us being able to develop services for people on that waiver.
Thank you. Right, Sai, I think you've got a couple of questions from chat. Do you want to go ahead and read those?
Yeah, Ron Fugit asked, when will the community support waiver vendor be on board?
So we just put it into procurement. That process takes several weeks. Our goal is to have them on board by April.
Thank you for that, Michelle.
Yep.
All right, from the Q&A box, what is the agenda for the town hall on February 1st?
What town hall are you referring to? I'm sorry.
I believe that's the FMAP initiative for the TCM. Mitzi, do you want to speak on that?
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I apologize. I mean, what's the question?
What's the agenda for that town hall on February 1st?
It's to discuss the conflict of interest with targeted case management.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. And again, if you need more details or did not quite get your question answered, please feel free to let us know. And Sai, do you have other questions from chat?
I do. Nick Wood asked if there could be a time frame for the waiver renewal public comment period. Again, I think I missed it.
Right, so the waiver renewal comment period will be in February. I need to, Nick, I'm sorry, Lee's not on this call, and I think she has those dates. So I can get that to you as soon as she comes back in the office this week.
Thank you. Right, from the Q&A box, regarding waiver amendments, providers are approved to continue Appendix K exceptions that are being permanently changed, correct?
Permanently changed ones. So the two that we're permanently changing are the personal paid family supports workers are in there, and the virtual delivery of services. Those are the two Appendix K measures we are extending, asking CMS to let us extend beyond Appendix K. Did I answer the question there?
I think we can assume so. And again, if you need more details or have follow-ups, please let us know. I'm sorry, Sai, anything else from the chat?
Yeah. Can we get information again on how to participate in the February 1st town hall?
Mitzi, can you help with that?
Yes, if you go to the FMAP website, information will be posted there, as well as I don't know if Jamie's on this call or not. We have been crafting information to be sent out to individuals, and I just can't remember if we've sent it all out yet or not, but it's up and coming.
Mitzi, can you put that link in the chat?
Yep, it's already been put there, but I can do it again.
You.
Yep.
Yep, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Can someone provide highlights of the new community support waiver?
When you talk about highlights, what are you asking exactly? There's a lot of things that we've been talking about for that. Are you talking about what kind of services? Is that what you'd like to know?
Susan, if you want to follow up, you can either do that in the chat box or in the Q&A box, and we'll see it. So, I think we've got a couple of older questions in the Q&A. So, Sai, unless you've I'm going to go with a couple of these that have been pending for a little bit in the Q&A box. What efforts are being made to eliminate the 10-year wait list for IDD and autism services?
So the primary effort that is taking place right now that the legislature is backing is to develop the community support waiver to serve more Kansans with IDD. So that's what we've been working on to get ready for the vendor. We have a list of things that we want them to do. There's different services that we've talked about. We were directed to talk with Missouri, who just had started their community support waiver a few years ago. And so that's the main avenue the legislature is taking as far as eliminating the waiting list so that more people can be served.
And thank you, Michelle. Related to that question about highlights for the new community support waiver, the follow-up was, yes, what kinds of services and for whom?
So these are some services that we, and it's still subject to change when we get more stakeholder input. But as a starting point, we looked at Missouri's community support waiver, and these were some of the services that they have on their waiver. And one was like transportation to and from work, supported employment, individual directed goods and services, allowing people to have budget authority with their budget, personal care services, respite services for families to take time off from caring for their loved ones on the waiver, assistive technology for technological devices and programs to make the person more independent, family caregiver support and training, financial management services and support brokers, benefits counseling. So there's a wide variety of things we have been looking at for potential services. Please keep in mind that the legislature has directed us to put a $20,000 cap per person per year for this waiver. So whatever we come up with, we'll have to stay within those restraints of those fiscal restraints that have been imposed by the legislature.
Next question, is there a downloadable PowerPoint or educational tool for directors to use for staff to educate on the final rule? So question about resources for education on the final rule.
Would that be, LaTanya, do you have any of that? Are you on the call?
LaTanya, you might need to double check that you're unmuted. I know I saw you earlier. We can come back to that question. Give her just another second to get unmuted. All right.
I see. Yeah, I see LaTanya is unable to unmute in the chat. She just posted.
Okay.
Oh no. Let's see if we can help troubleshoot that, LaTanya. And while we're doing that, a maybe follow-up question. What plans specifically are in place to address the over 10-year IDD waitlist? Is the governor adding additional funds to address this?
So the specific way, I truly encourage people to advocate to have more funds for the IDD waiver. As I said before, the community support waiver is the tools that the legislature and the governor are supporting to add additional services for people on the waiting list, and another opportunity for them to get services through a waiver program.
Thank you. Right, Guy, you said you've got a question in the chat.
Yes, I have from Jessica Dalton. May an individual access CSW services while still remaining on the waiting list for day and/or residential services?
Yeah, that's something we're going to have to figure out what that would look like if someone wants to go ahead and access the community support waiver and comes up on that list for those services. And we're going to have to figure out for when the person may or may not want to move over to the more comprehensive IDD waiver. So we'll have to have a process in place for people that want to start accessing community support waiver services, but when they come to a point in time where they may need to access residential and day services. So that's a really good question. We're going to have to figure that out.
Thank you, Michelle. All right, and Latanya, I we think you can unmute now. And the question was, is there a downloadable PowerPoint or educational tool for directors to use for staff to educate on the final rule?
Thank you. Yes, this is Latanya, and as you know, final rule is my expertise up here. So putting it out there, several of you reached out after the last stakeholder meeting. I am the one to contact if you want training on final rule. I've already set up some training for this year, so please, I can put my email in the chat. Reach out to me. I will do, as you all know, if you're familiar with me, I will do CDDO affiliate meetings, any waiver participant or advocate meetings, I will come. I will do one-on-one. I will do staff meetings, TCM meeting, guardianship meetings, anything that's out there and you want to learn about final rule, please reach out to me and we can schedule. I can come in person or we can do it virtually. It's snow out there, so let me be thinking about that. I will come in person, but if it's snowing, then let's plan on virtually. As you know, a lot of snow is going on in that. And then I also wanted to follow up on training. Seth had talked about it. So as promised, we are coming out in 2024 with a big statewide training for final rule, because we're past the theory, the aspirations. This is final rule. Now we're coming back out to help you all and guide you on how to enhance your implementation of the final rule. So we are coming out, we're looking like early summer, maybe early fall, to give you an idea. And I want to put it out there. I'm looking at the map across state of Kansas. It will be, statewide, as we did before with the final rule tour. So of course, we're going to have a training in Topeka and Wichita. So that you heard it from Latanya. We will have training in Topeka, and then we also will have one in Wichita. As you know, we're looking at population. We want everyone to show up, to come out. It will be for everyone. Final rule trainings are always open to everyone. So again, that's our waiver participants, our TCMs, our CDDOs, MCOs, advocates, everybody looking for you to come and having some specific training for each one of our targeted groups, okay? So I put it out there to our CDDOs, our aging partners, advocate groups. Please reach out to me, because again, we're looking for cities to come and do training on to the cities that we're going to get a good turnout, okay? We want to come out there. So Hayes, if you're out there in the Hayes area, please reach out to me. Again, let's collaborate, partner, and say, hey, Latanya, if you come, we will get people to the table, okay? Paola was a good spot last time. If you're in that Paola, Kansas City area, reach out to us. Pittsburgh, I got a question mark for you all. And then Winfield, Kansas, I got a question mark for you all. And then Garden City, Kansas, okay? Or if you're an area and you're saying, Latanya, you guys never come out here. I listen to you all. I want to come, but I want to come where the stakeholders and everybody is going to show up. And we have a good training. We get a lot of information out there to you all, okay, with that. So just want to let you know that training is coming, in-person training. We're going to do a statewide 2024 tour. And before that, if you need that one-on-one training, or you need me to come out to any of your groups, any of your agencies, reach out to me and I can come out before we do this big wide statewide tour. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Latanya. Another question from the Q&A box. Where and when will be the best place to get information about the new community support waiver?
Yeah, so right now I am scheduled to provide an update to the Senate Public Health and Welfare Committee on Thursday. Was supposed to be today, but weather got in the way. We'll be providing more information as it becomes available. We will be posting documents on our website. I think we can go ahead and once I've done the the testimony for the Senate, we will be posting that for public comment, for people to view. But until we get a vendor on staff and contracted with, we probably won't be able to do the initial work of getting stakeholder input for that waiver. That will be a big part of what the vendor will be working with us on, is to help us get stakeholder input and make sure that Kansans are included in the development of this very important waiver.
And will that be sent out to the listserv, that information, Michelle?
We can get something out in the listserv just to give you a bulletin about where we are with the community support waiver. That might be helpful for you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And Sai, what do you have from chat questions?
Yeah, I have two questions. I believe both are related to final rule. If they are not, please let me know. The first is, do you have recommended training tools for individuals served and guardians? And this question was asked while Latanya was speaking. Latanya?
Latanya, are you able to unmute?
Yes, I have training that is specific to our individuals served in their support. So reach out to me and I can send that information to you, or I can do one-on-one or whatever you need.
I also ask, yeah, how will we receive information on the final rule meetings? And Latanya, if you're able to share on that one as well, thank you.
Okay, able to unmute again. Thank you, Carrie. So are you talking about the training, or are you talking about the final rule stakeholder meetings we used to have?
Yes, Sarah, yes, Sarah, you're able to unmute if you want to ask Latanya directly. Training meetings.
That information will go out through the listserv. I usually send it to the CDOs and the MCOs and our advocate groups and everybody to share that information, like InterHab and anybody else, again, that would need that information. So just be looking for it.
Carrie, I don't have any more questions in the chat.
All right, I've got a few in the Q&A box, so we can go over there. First up, Latanya, you are the, if you want to stay unmuted, there are a couple of questions about final rule in here. What does the final rule training curriculum include?
Is that the training that I do? Or the training that's coming? We have a lot of I have a lot of final rule trainings I'm working on. Like we're going to be putting stuff up on Kansas Train. Then we're going to have the overall like in practice training that we're coming with the 2024 training. Or when I come out, I do an intro, just general information, and then I respond to direct questions. So there's a lot of final rule training out there. That's why you got to reach out to me to say, hey, this is what we need, Latanya, because I modify it to make sure who's ever requesting the information regarding final rule, you get what you need out of it. So I have training for service providers, waiver participants, you know, advocate groups. I've been everywhere over the last 4 years.
Thanks, Latanya. And if you have been wanting to ask your question out loud and struggling to unmute, I believe we've got that fixed now. So you can use the raise hand feature if you want to ask your questions out loud. It does not have to be Sai and I. But so we can still do that. And we just to note, we've got about 9 minutes left in our time together today. So we've got time for just a few more questions. First question, are CDDOs and TCMs working to inform people on the wait list how much longer they have, much longer they can expect to wait so they can prepare? For example, contact parents with students in the 18 to 21-year-old program and let them know their spot on the waiting list.
Is that a question for the CDDOs and TCMs?
Yeah, I mean, I know if any CDDO representatives wanted to chime in kind of what their process looks like, I'd welcome that. But CDDOs are required to have an annual contact with those on the wait list. I know we're not always successful in reaching those people, but anyone who is on the wait list is certainly able to reach out to their local CDDO and kind of find out what the estimated wait time is.
Great, thank you, Seth. If we do have CDDOs who want to share about their process, in the interest of time, I'm going to invite you to do that through chat. If you want to type that up. We've got just a couple of minutes left today, and so I don't think we can get to a lot of folks sharing their process. But if we do have time, we can check in and see if folks want to share. A question: will these questions and answers be included in a written format when the minutes are posted on the KDAD's website? And yes, they are. They're shared. The meeting recording and a Q&A document are shared on the KDAD's website. And we will share that again in the chat before we disconnect today, so you can find that information easily. Next question from the Q&A, to clarify, there's no posted final rule education document. We have to reach out to Latanya separately. Is there any posted training, Latanya?
No, it is not at this time because I'm updating it, but it will be on the final rule page. And then we're also working on updating the overall KDAD's training page to get some more updated stuff on there. It was, but I took it down from the final rule page because it needs updating because things have changed. So it will be coming.
Thanks, Latanya. And the last question that we currently have in the chat, in the Q&A box, we do have time for one, maybe two more questions if you've got them. What is the status of the IDD waitlist study by KU?
Status as in, hypothesis, or we don't have, we're still in the middle of the study. I don't know what kind of question is being asked.
My interpretation is that is what the questioner was looking for, is where are you in the process? If that is not your question and you want to clarify, please do so.
So we're still working on surveys.
You want to explain what the surveys are, Mitzi?
We're surveying families and individuals who have been on the wait list, and those individuals who have come off the wait list in crisis. And initially, the idea was that this would be completed via email. However, KDADS does not have a whole lot of email for those individuals that were randomly pulled. So they are using Qualtrics to have Qualtrics call individual cell phones to see if it bounces back as it went through or not. And if it went through, then we will send the survey link that way. And of course, if it didn't get through, then we will try to find a new number. It's not going to be possible for the survey to be mailed, simply because when they created the survey in Qualtrics, they created skip patterns. So if you answered a question a certain way, it would skip to a question that was more relevant. So, that would be like a 75-page survey if it had to be mailed. So we're still strategizing ways to get individual input and information, and working with KU on those issues. Hopefully that was helpful.
Thank you. A couple follow-ups, just a comment. It seems like a huge delay in getting surveys out. And then when will the IDD waiting list survey process start?
Hi, this is Jamie. I'm the study coordinator for this project. And so for the surveys, KU is in process of updating the 2023 data to make sure that it's all up to date, so that when they do their random sampling of the 20%, that'll be $13.50 for the IDD and $500 for the PD on those random samples, that they'll be able to go to the people it's intended for. They do have a meeting coming up today from 1 to 2. If you'd like to join, I can. If you don't have a meeting maker, just put it in here or email me and we can get that over to you.
Thank you so much for sharing, Jamie. Right, that does take us to the end of our time today. So with that, we'll say thank you all so much for participating. As a reminder, once again, this meeting is recorded and posted on the KDADS website. It should be available later this week. And the November meeting is already posted there. Our next call is scheduled for March 18th. We'll return to Mondays in March, and that will be at noon. You should get a reminder with the registration link later this week as well. If you do not get those, please do double check that you are on the KDADS listserv by signing up on the KDADS website. Those reminders go out to that listserv. And please remember that these calls are an ongoing resource for you to stay up to date on HCBS and what KDADS is doing. We thank you for your participation and look forward to talking to you again in March. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.